ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Page number 220, mantra number 11. Repeat after me. मनसैवेदमाप्तव्यम् नेह नानास्ति किञ्चन मृत्योः समृत्युं गच्छति य इह नानेव पश्यति। मनसा एव इदम् आप्तव्यम् न इह नाना अस्ति किंचन। य इह नाना एव पश्यति मृत्योः सह मृत्युं गच्छति। Like in the last thought of yesterday's discussion, they said that which is feeling the limitation, that alone is to be liberated. The Parabrahma Paramatma, the all-pervasive presence, is ever liberated. It is never limited. So that does not need liberation. The Jada Prapancha, it does not care for liberation because it is inert. Who is wanting liberation? It is the individuality associated with the Antakarana. That is where everything is acting, reacting, responding. All these different kinds are happening purely in the Antakarana, Buddhi and Manas. The Buddhi and Manas function only based on conviction. We announce out in the public that there is this satsanga. Just taking a mundane experience as an example. There are those that come, try. They'll repeat only if there is a conviction born that this is something that is useful, beneficial. Otherwise, there is no action taken upon. Even if I have to take a glass of water, I should be firmly convinced that I am thirsty, therefore now I have to get up. Until then, I keep trying to get it through someone else. There was a lesson in maybe second, third grade, I think. Suddenly remembered it. The title of the lesson was Apna Kaam Swayam Karo. Very distinctly, I remember the. So, in that, the bird has given birth, the little ones are growing, and it has given birth in a field, paddy field. So the little birds get scared every time the owner comes and says, you know, it has come to crop, now we should get it, in, cut, the bounty has to be reaped. Let's ask the neighbors. The chicks, they get disturbed. The mother says, don't worry, aaj nahi hoga. Then the next day he comes and repeats the same thing and ends up saying, let's ask my cousins if they can come and help. The mother bird, wise one, it says, even today that is not going to happen. A week passes by and every day he says somebody, somewhere, something. Finally he says, kal to mujhe hi aana padega. By then the little ones have also gathered enough strength. So the mother says, now it is time to fly, because that fellow is now convinced enough to come and do it himself. Anything that which we do, conviction matters. Therefore, in the court of law as well, what do we look for? Conviction. And once the conviction is ascertained, then they are called convicts. Born from the same idea. The sentence passed is called now, thus, thereby, they are convicted. It is ascertained that it was born out of their conviction. The onus is on that particular person. Each one of us functions purely out of our conviction. However jumbled the conviction may be. But if it is born out of clarity, the energy that we draw is from a different spot. Born out of selfishness, the energy drawn is from a different standpoint. Born out of lethargy, it is drawn from a different perspective. Even the conviction is sattvic, rajasic and tamasic. This is not something new, it is said as Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. It is with the Shraddha, that which you enact. Shraddha here meaning conviction. Yo yat shraddhasya eva saha. As is our Shraddha, that is how we are who we are, not otherwise. Therefore, the very sense of limitation that I am living is purely born out of my conviction. Alas, it is a wrong conviction. The conviction that I am limited, I am this body, mind and intellect, and that which through the body, mind and intellect I am attached to in the outside field of world. Objects and beings that I am attached to. Now that conviction has to change to understand that I am not this individuality that is getting attached to all of this. This individuality is merely a reflection of that source which is my very true nature. Therefore, Shravana reveals that knowledge, reveals that aspect that I am this tattva, etat vaitat. Now, just by listening, if we were the Uttamadhikari, one Shravana itself is sufficient to realize, understand, assimilate, and abide in it. There have been quite a few examples of that. Ramana Maharshi is one example. Nisargadatta Maharaj is another example. And in Ramana Maharshi's case, it was his inquisitiveness to enact and find what does death mean. Because his elder brother said, death means you are leaving the body. And that was a very genuinely new concept for this young Ramana, Venkat Ramana. And he goes to, everybody is crying. So he goes to a secluded spot. There he sleeps because the dead body was lying there in a sleeping posture. He also sleeps and he tries to eject himself out of the body. Now, whatever happened in that particular effort, he could clearly see himself other than the body. That conviction right there changed. If I am not this body, if I am not this instrument, if I am not this body, mind and intellect, then that which this body, mind and intellect is attached to cannot be me. Young Ramana, he came to that standpoint. And instantly he had full-fledged vairagya towards everything. Then he goes to Tiruvannamalai. There he sits and starts withdrawing from everything because it is not me. And abides in it. A full-fledged experience of the self. Nisargadatta heard from his guru once. It is not that he was educated. He had no qualifications of education. He was not doing a very great sattvic vritti either. He was earning whatever he was earning dharmically, but it was not a very sattvic vritti. You know, that roll the BD. He was a BD roller. Once he went, understood what the guru was pointing at, and that was sufficient. Uttamadhikari. It is the Madhyamadhikari for who the Shravana should be followed up by Manana. That which re-educates our own buddhi again and again and again, that I am not this body, mind and intellect. The comfort that it lives in, the comfort zones that it develops around itself, that I am not. As Adi Shankaracharya ji says in Sadhana Panchakam, स्वाद्वन्नम न तु याच्यताम विधिवशात प्राप्त्येन संतुष्यताम. Food is required. Tasty food is not a requirement. Whatever comes onto your plate, take it as that prasadat which feeds, sustains this body, and live with that mindset. But we develop so many comfort zones. I'm just taking that as one example. Mind has its own comfort zones. So that has to be re-educated again and again through the manana process because there is still sandeha that leads to this identity with the body, mind and intellect to be nourished further. 1 hour we listen to satsanga, the shravana is happening, but the rest 23 hours, the abhyasa is happening as the body, mind and intellect. Therefore, the rigorousness of that abhyasa has to be cultivated. Now, once this cultivation happens, in nididhyasana, in the dhyana abhyasa, what is that turning point, that which we should look forward for? Where the intellect intensely understands, clarity is there, that which is identifying is merely a reflection. And that reflection, if it exists, there has to be a source. And that source has to be the actuality. Reflection cannot be the actuality. Though I function into the world of interactions as the reflection, because that is the operating system, that is how it will function. If the electricity is there charging the battery, but there is no operating system in that mobile phone, then that mobile phone becomes a very precious, costly paperweight. और कुछ कर नहीं सकते उसके साथ, because the operating system is failing. So the operating system continues. But from what standpoint do you see that the operating system is functioning? That all these different layers evolve and devolve in the layers of sattvic, rajasic and tamasic gunaha. What is the outside world? Guneshu. That also is sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. These gunas are interacting. I, the conscious principle, is only illumining it. Now, from that standpoint, when one starts functioning, there is no tagging that happens. If you have ever uploaded a video to YouTube or any such medium, along with the title, you give hashtags. Now, what are the hashtags? Different people searching for that particular video can be searching, they may not know your title, though you have to keep it as generic, as accessible as possible. They may be searching for various aspects. You have to visualize and tag it with all those different possibilities. That way, whoever searching, they get to this particular video. Similarly, I, in my wrong identification, tag myself not only as the body, mind and intellect and the memory, I also tag myself with the identities of that which the body, mind, intellect and the memory likes to tag itself, attach itself to the outside world of things, beings and environments. Those tags have to be evaluated. Is it worth me haggling around with these tags, or drop the tags and go to the tagless? Tagless meaning that which is indescribable in the words, therefore you cannot tag. That which cannot be articulated in concepts, therefore cannot be tagged. That very conscious principle, that which I am. All the taggings and the multitude, nana iha pashyati. Wherever the mind is entertaining divisions, unison doesn't happen. Wherever the perspective is divisive. And that divisive is also very opportunistic. I think given this example earlier, when we are in Bharatavarsha, we have the huge division, those who live in the north and those who live in the south. And we shouldn't assume that all those who are in the north are unified into one northern entity, or all those who are in the southern part are unified into one southern entity. There are what now? What, 5 states? Language based. 5 different states. Andhra, Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala. Each one feels separate. Now I can go into various separations within each state. Different jati, different varga, different kinds of divisiveness. Now the same fellow goes to Australia or Europe or US, Canada. There you see another Indian looking fellow. The idea is not whether you are from the north or south. India, Indian. I have had people who, very strange sequence, complete strangers. But just because of looking like an Indian, they come, exchange the contacts, that which you claim about privacy and all, you exchange the information, addresses also, in the first meet. Why? All the divisions are dropped. Isn't it at the mind level? Now, raising that mind to that highest sattvic and tipping over beyond that sattvic, where all these tags that which we are clinging on to are dropped. It is the change of that conviction. Manasa eva idamaptavyam neha nanasti kinchana. When the mind thus is convinced that I can be nothing other than this principle called consciousness, then the divisiveness automatically drops. Yes, temporarily we may provide that mind with a complete seclusion. Go to a ashram, go to some Himalayan corner. But if the conviction is not changed, the external temperaments changed, will not change the conviction. So wherever you are, if you can find that moment to sit down and strengthen that conviction. What conviction? I am that conscious principle which provides the room, space and the ability for all these organs of perception, action, mind and intellect to function in their fields. I cannot be those instruments. Even to decide as to where that instruments are functioning is a functionality of the intellect. That functionality also is not me. Every conviction is born out of a certain concept, that which I am clear about. The only clarity that I have to gain is that I am this conscious principle. Then the divisiveness drops and all that I start perceiving is that oneness. I am not talking about equality. That's a very warped idea. Our own hands, five fingers are not looking equal. So we are not talking about equality. We are talking about equanimous, samatva. Samatva meaning being in balance. And that extension of that balance as the substratum on which the entire field of matter dances. Up until then, when I was observing the entire world being pulled into the world was a terrifying existence. Whereas once you establish in that equanimous, sthira buddhi, you start seeing that same chaotic world as a beautiful expression of that Chaitanya Tattva dancing in rhythm. The world doesn't change. Because the conviction has changed, the perspective, the outlook changes. Nana iha na pashyati. But the one who sees that divisiveness, mrityoho mrityum apnoti. From limitations, they go into death, and from death again born, again die, again born, caught up in this cycle of. And who is stating this? Swayam Yamadharma Raja is stating it. This is how those that can independently walk away from this cycle refuse, because they are not ready to change their conviction. We get caught up in our own unnecessary patterns. Even if explained, even if explained properly, it is not convincing enough unless I commit to that. Many people say that the new generation has commitment issues. The older generation is no better. We also have commitment issues. So the conviction is born from the clarity of satsanga. Once that clarity is born, the intellect, our own buddhi should be committed to that clarity. Once that crystal clear clarity is established, then we get committed to it. Once that commitment exists, then there is a courage born to walk the path. That is when the conviction will change. Conviction changes to see, the perspective changes. Otherwise, we'll be caught up into where we are stuck. Mrityoho sa mrityum gacchati. Is constantly caught up in that limited world, and it feels like Shruti doesn't understand my pain. Therefore, I don't know why today I am remembering Ramana Maharshi so much. Whoever went with any kind of issue to Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, so he was not spared because he was a realized Mahatma. People went with all kinds of silly things that they were experiencing, and his advice was one common line. Constantly he would ask, Ni yar? Who are you? Who is it that is suffering? Is it the mind that is suffering, or is it you that is suffering? Identified with that mind, I say, I am suffering. And not that he was just preaching, he lived that life. When he had to go through surgery, he said, it is the body, and the mind that is attached to it will have pain. Sukha dukkha is only to the mind. And it is supposed to be a very intense surgery that was done in his left armpit. He refused anesthesia. If his mindset is occupied by everyone, you will lose job. Because he refused anesthesia. And he went through the entire process. And when asked, he said, "Bhai, it is the body and the mind attached to that body. I am not that body, I am not that mind." He answered that question, Ni yaar, I am the self. Self is not limited by this body, mind, and intellect. Now, how is this self? Where is this self? So he says in the next mantra, Angushtamatra Purushaha Madhya Atmani Tishtati Ishano Bhuta Bhavyasya Natato Vijugupsate Ye Tadvaitat Angushtamatra Purushaha. Now the Upanishad starts using the mystical language. Angushta, this much. Angushta meaning the thumb, the size of the thumb. Angushta matra purushaha. Where is it? Madhye atmani tishtati. In the sentence, it says Madhya atmani tishtati. But then when you do the sandhi vicheda, you have to add the a. Madhye atmani tishtati. It is the very center of this body. Now, if that be true, literally, if we take, what is the center of the body? The navel. If you have to get out of the chair that you are sitting in, you have to push yourself, the upper side of the body has to be pushed, and then I can get up. Without moving the upper body, try getting up. It is impossible. Why? The center of gravity has to be manipulated to get up. And where is that center of gravity? Is the navel. So it is not literally telling Madhya Atmani Tishtati is right in the navel point. I know somebody that works in, used to work in Navy. So one day, he was a commander. So one day I went to him and did this. And he's like, what? I said, I'm giving you a naval salute. Naval, right? So naval salute. Where is this Madhya Atma? It is not literally the physical body and the center of it. And when we look at the diagrams that are given in self-unfoldment, Kindle Life and various other Gurudev's discourses, he creates 5 layers, concentric circles, right in the middle. There is Annamaya, then there is Pranamaya, then there is Manomaya, then there is Vijnanamaya, then there is Anandamaya, in there in the middle. So trying to search for that midpoint. The reason that concentric circles are being given is the outermost layer is the grossest, then subtlety starts increasing. That is what is indicated. The subtlety is indicated. Prana is spread all across the body. Mana is spread all across this body. Buddhi is spread all across this body. See, if there is an ant that is going in the back of your neck, don't you recognize it? There's something moving. Immediately you start working at it. Even though you may have removed it, still the sensation keeps tickling. So you keep doing it. Mind is there also. Jnaneshwar Maharaj says it beautifully. He says, Madhya Atmani is right to the heart that pumps the blood. That is the spiritual center to give a physical positioning. And again, don't take it literally. He calls that Anahata Chakra. So, there in the Anahata Chakra, the lotus that is, and the chakras are described in the number of petals. The number of petals there is 8 petals. Now, from Kavarga to Tavarga, Katha is 8, indicative of that very core, that very center of being. To understand the center of being, supposing a loved one of your child or somebody is leaving for studying somewhere for the very first time, your parting ways, there is a heaviness that you feel. It is not here. Where do you feel that heaviness? Somewhere around here, right about there. The core, the center here is again not a physicality, not a location. It is the essence of the entire being. Madhye Atmani Tishtati. And why Angushta Matra? Angushta Matra is that which is the very essence, the core. Purushaha. Adi Shankaracharya ji again comes to our help in defining this Purusha. Otherwise, the women liberation, that too of Gen Z, will take banners out, crawling out like cockroaches. This is against women. Purushaha means there are 2 definitions given. Purishayanat Purushaha, the one that enlivens this house with all the organs of perception, action, mind, intellect, buddhi, that which is enlivening it. Purishayanat, meaning Jiva. One definition of Purusha is Jiva. The second definition of Purusha is Purnatvat Purushaha, that which is essentially complete unto itself. That is called Purusha. Madhye Atmani Tishtati. And that very presence is the Ishvara of the past, present and the future. Ishanaha Bhuta Bhavyasya. That past which I have experienced, that future that I am yet to experience, the present that I am going through, happens, the past, present, future, the time As soon as time is said, the space is also included. Wherever time is mentioned, space is also included, because don't we calculate time in terms of space and space in terms of time? Especially in Hyderabad, if you are driving in the peak hour, in another 2 hours, you have to drive. You don't talk in terms of how many kilometers, how much time will it take to travel from point A to point B. Point A to point B is actually space, but it is often calculated in time. Time is often calculated in terms of space. In from Rishikesh or Haridwar till the above plains of above mountains of Himalayas, people used to walk. Today the vehicles and other things have come in, but they used to walk. How much distance from, say, Haridwar to Rishikesh? It's what, about 19-20 kilometers, right? So they would not tell 19-20 kilometers. They would say 8.5 times that you chant Kaivalya Upanishad, you will reach. The number of times that you repeat that, by the time you have done 8.5 times, you should reach. Space calculated in time. So both are included. If both are included, in space, all the diversified expressions are included. The space is subtle, and in the space, all the grossness is included. All the names and forms are included. The one who is the Ishvara, the substratum on which the layers of matter dance, that conscious principle is right here as the very essence of your being. That because of which you conceptualize, that because of which you feel, that because of which you have hunger and thirst, that because of whose presence your organs of perception action can function, that very essence. We don't have to go search for a specific place at a specific time. Those are all for the initial seekers. When do you have to meditate? Brahma Muhurta Kala. So wake up at 4 o'clock, naha dhoke, sit down for meditation, and as soon as the meditation is done, or even during the meditation sometimes, up until then, you are having a horizontal sleep. On the seat of meditation, you are having vertical swing. Talking about the Kala, Desha, is for creating a certain discipline. But beyond any Kala, any Desha, because that is the projection of the mind. That where the inspiration comes is the Muhurta. That is the time, that is the Kala, that is the space, Desha. Meditate, realize, and abide in it as the self. Angushta matra purushaha. How will I know if it is that Angushta matra? So the next mantra identifies how to identify. Angushthamatrah Purushaha Jyotirva Dhumakaha Ishano Bhuta Bhavyasya Sayevadya Savushvaha. Ye tadvai tat. This Angushta Matra Purusha, which was introduced to us in the last mantra, Jyotihi iva adhumakaha, is Jyoti. Jyoti meaning it is of the nature of illumination. It does nothing. Everything happens in its presence. Just like on the August 15th, the march past and all the other displays, they happen in the presence of the Prime Minister. He's doing nothing. I shouldn't say that. He's standing and saluting. Just like the entire march past happens in the presence of. Similarly, the world of all these things and being march in the presence of. The same concept which was introduced as the very second mantra, because the first mantra is a question asked in Kathopanishad. From the second mantra onwards, that if you see something, it is not you. Which is what is borrowed into the text called Drik Drishya Viveka. The body can be seen. 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also mentions this. Kshetrajñam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Sarva kshetra. Kshetra meaning the fields of experience. In the fields of experience, it's in the mind works, the organs work, the perception works, the actions work, guided by the buddhi. Wherever I can recognize it as this, the definition is so precise. How do I define what kshetra is? Idam. Wherever you say this, it means it is not you. Am I getting across? This and that gives a space variation. That moon, this earth. If I can recognize anything as this or the variable of it as that, is kshetra. This body, this mind of mine. Even when I complain to the doctor, my head is pounding, my head is aching. I have a headache. I have a head and it is aching. Meaning what? I am not it. वैसे मेरा दिल, my heart. When I say my, it is possessed by me. Therefore, it cannot be me. In discussions, my idea is. Meaning what? Idea is something different, I am something different. Who is illumining all of this? Even in those conceptualization, when I understand something, I know I understood. When I don't understand something, I also know that I do not understand. That knowing is the illumination. It illumines the fact that I have understood, it illumines the fact that I have not understood. That illumining factor is the very presence. Therefore, he says, though it is Jyoti, don't imagine that it is a lamp now. The lamp, and then it has a smoke, and then it has the soot, and you say it is right here, I am smoked from within. Adhumakaha, it does not have any kind of dhuma. It doesn't have smoke. It is a smokeless illumination. Don't take it literally. It is a figure of speech that it illumines the knowledge, the knowing aspect, the awarefulness aspect. Many times when we say awarefulness and sakshi, we behave from the standpoint of the intellect, which is a good change. That as I am speaking, as I am working, as I am expressing myself, from the buddhi, awareful of what I am doing, I can function. But that awarefulness of the buddhi is also a borrowed entity. Borrowed from the conscious illumining principle. Therefore, earlier mantra when we said Ashabdamasparshamarupa that all these functionalities don't reflect in it, but all these functionalities happen because of which? Illumined by which? Jyotihi iva adhumakaha. Ishano bhutabhavyasya sayeva adya savushvaha. And it remains the same, eternal, that which was, that which is, and that which shall always remain as that illumining factor. Everything else changes. And this, that which does not change, is my true identity. Now, having understood this, what should be my sadhana? Every single day, we should train a certain discipline along with the all other upacharas. Puja hua, dhyan, japa hua, pranayama, yoga asanas. You have done all of that. Sit down and visualize. Visualizing is again the concept of the intellect. But at least from that intellectual standpoint, visualize as to how you are something distinctly separate from anything grosser than the intellect. How much value should you give to the emotions and the feelings? In Vedanta, we use both emotions and feelings as synonyms. When you go to psychology and psychiatry, they define feelings and emotions separately. Feeling is at a body level and emotion is at the thought level. They create a distinction. We use it synonymously. How much value should I give to these feelings? To the cravings at the level of organs of perception action? Create that layer of separateness, the degree of separateness. It is not just, everybody loves, at the end of the day, when somebody sings Nirvana Shatkam, Every time I ask our singers, please sing some bhajans. Can I sing Nirvana Shatkam? It becomes a feel-good factor. A good raga, a slow rhythm. We are not talking about the raga enjoyment aspect. What is the bhava, that which you can pursue and see the distinction? Mano buddhya hankara chittani naham न च श्रोत्र जिह्वे न च घ्राणि पात्रे न च व्योम भूमिर न चोपस्तपायु चिदानंद रूपः. Create that degree of separateness with it. And once the outer layers, there is a degree of separation created, then that intellect, of that intellect, to be aware of the intellectual conceptualization as well, then you have shifted your focus from being the intellect to observing the intellect. That shift is so subtle. This abhyasa has to be done daily. Thereby, when I function even in the world of happenings, I can function from that separateness of degree. I am not emotionally carried away. I am not carried away by my cravings and desires. I am not carried away by being influenced by different concepts. So, therefore, every single day, that sadhana of sitting down away from the chaos, closing your eyes and being with yourself, that practice has to be done meticulously every single day. Consistently commit that time only for that. I mean, it need not be just in the early morning. If after 9:30 all the disturbances have gone out, children, husband, wife, everybody has gone, you choose that time. Easily you can withdraw and sit. But make a routine, make a discipline and commit to that discipline. We'll continue tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shant Shant Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.